But moving on, getting into kind of the next set of questions, talking more about the NFL draft, the Ravens draft. I'm going to start off with a really simple question, and we'll take it from there. The Baltimore Ravens took 9 players.
Mhm.
Who was your favorite pick the Ravens made?
Oh man, once again, y'all, if y'all haven't, tapped into the previous episodes, make sure you tap in. We did talk about some guys that we wanted the Ravens to pick, and some players we wanted the Ravens to avoid as well. I think a big thing that this is going to blow your mind, McConnell, when I say this, guy. Even though yes, I was rooting for Nate Wiggins, I liked us getting the corner, and I did want us to get Keon Coleman, but to be able to not not take a trade up from Kansas City and other teams that called in the second round and able to go here and secure an offensive lineman for the future. I gotta go with the new guy. The flexible right tackle, left tackle guy coming out of Washington that blocked for Michael Penix's blind side, which was the
Mhm.
right side. Um, so it sets up for a future pick. I mean, excuse me, it sets the Ravens up for a future move. I mean, if they wanted to, they could put him at right tackle. When you heard, the scouts saying, his IQ by far is one of the highest in this year's draft, that's
Yep.
a compliment. That's a lot to say. Um, the real question is, do you start him now, or do you wait to this contract get? I don't know if this is Ron Stanley's contract year, or if they cut him in next month. I don't know how much the dead cap space it will be, um, but that was a future move in my opinion. Whether they're going to keep him on the right side or put him on or just have him initially be on that left side. But I feel like going in the second round, getting some more protection, getting another young, healthy, strong guy, to protect Lamar Jackson and open up the running lanes, find running backs. That was a solid move. It was a solid move. I want us to get a wide receiver in the second round, but everything, everything. When you're a Ravens fan, you got to learn everything eventually works out in the end.
Yeah, and I loved Roger Rosengarten as a pick. I'll say this: I think the Ravens, like first maybe even 5 picks they had, were all players that I was like, I didn't think they'd be there, right? Like I didn't think Nate would be there. I didn't think Roger Rosengarten would be there. And taking him was the exact smart pick that they needed to do, right? The wide receivers that we were hoping would maybe be available round 2, right? Guys like maybe Xavier Legette falls. Well, he goes 32. Well, maybe Keon Coleman falls. He goes 33. Well, maybe AD Mitchell falls. I think he went 34. I know he went like top 40. Like they all went. And so they didn't want to overdraft, and they would go out there and they're like, you know what? What do we really need? What can we use on the offensive line? And he's a versatile player that can play the left side, he can play the right side. You know, he can play guard if you really need him to. But sure up the trenches is never a bad thing. And so I think his pick was really good. Shout out to him. Number 70, I believe I saw he is wearing, which I like that number
Yeah,
for an offensive lineman. I'll say this: the Ravens in recent years have had some bad number classes. All right. I want to just give a quick, like, this isn't even like part of the favorite draft pick segment, but it might have to be my new favorite draft pick. Devontae Walker, thank you for bringing the 80s back to the wide receiver position. The Ravens haven't had an 80s wide receiver since Miles Boykin. Everyone transitioned to, like, everyone was a teen number and then like single digits. I'm like, wait a minute. Where's the 84s? Where's the 80s, the 81s, the 88s? Obviously, I think 88 is Charlie Kohler. 80 is Isaiah Likely, and 89 is Mark Andrews. But there's like a bunch of numbers in there that could be picked. And
yeah,
Devontae
yeah.
Walker did pick that. So I was very happy with that number choice. I like the number choices from everyone. I'll say that. But if I'm looking at it for my favorite pick, like I said, I think the Ravens got 5 players. Their first 5 players were all players I didn't think would be available when they were picking. I think they did the draft in the opposite way. A lot of people do their typical NFL drafts, a lot of teams, because I think the first 5 guys Not like obviously like they were the Ravens guys, like they really wanted them, but I felt like they were also the best available players. Like that's what they were going for. And then the last four guys was more, let's just get our guys, right? Like we don't care about value anymore. We want to make sure we get Rasheen Ali, right? We want to make sure that we get Devin Leary. We want to make sure we get Sanusi Kane and Nick Samick. Like we want to make sure we get all those guys. Like who cares about value at that point? Get your guy in day 3. But day 1 and day 2, the Ravens just went out there and they were going crazy with value and positions in need. It was the draft fell really well. But I think my favorite player that the Baltimore Ravens drafted, this is really tough. I'm gonna go with Adisa Isaac.
Mm.
It's really tough. I really wanted to choose. I love their first 5 picks. Like
Right.
I'm like, wow, like these are all great picks. So it's really hard. I was literally choosing between all of them. But Adisa Isaac, I think, was somebody that I looked at as like, hey, should the Ravens be drafting this player in the first round? Like when I watched him initially, that was my thought process going into it. Was like, should this guy be pick 30? And now I will say, I wasn't after I watched all the pass rushers, I wasn't like, hey, we should draft an edge rusher round 1. I felt like we should go corner. And we did go corner, but then I'm watching because I wasn't watching the draft live. I went back and I watched the draft, like just like scrolled on ESPN because I was gone the entire time during the draft. So I had no idea who was gone. But that also meant not only did I not know who was gone, who was available. So when I saw that the Ravens took Adisa Isaac, I was shocked, not because they took another Penn State pass rusher, but more because this guy that I was looking at as potentially a first round draft pick, the Ravens get at the end of the 3rd round
Mhm.
as a premier pass rusher. I mean, if you guys did PFF mock drafts at all and did into the 2nd round, Adisa Isaac was the number 4 pass rusher. Like he was above, I believe, Chop Robinson, Darius Robinson, Chris Braswell. Like I think the only players above him were Laiatu Latu, Dallas Turner, and Jared Verse. Like they loved Adisa Isaac because he was productive. He has the measurables and the athleticism. And he's just a guy that seems like he wants to get to work, right? Like he is not going through the motions. He's trying to work. He's trying to make an impact and have a big difference on the NFL and on whatever team drafts him. And now the Ravens get him, and it's in a spot where this year we're probably not going to see a lot of Adisa Isaac,
Mhm.
but next year, the year after that, right? Like, how long is Kyle Van Noy going to be there? Are the Ravens keeping? Are they keeping David Ojabo? Are they keeping Adafe away long term? We don't know.
Mhm.
Now all of a sudden we have a pass rusher that was potentially a first round guy, a player that some people had graded as a first rounder that can play physical football and get after the quarterback, fighting for reps. And I think anytime you have that and his mentality in the locker room and the fact that he's friends with Adafe is just going to help that front 7 even more with just more camaraderie and energy, because that's what the Ravens defense is about. It's not about like, oh, we have the best, like obviously, I mean, we have the best safety in the NFL. We have the top 2 linebacker. But other than that, like it's not necessarily like we're not going out there with our front 7 and we're like, hey, we have Lawrence Taylor, and that is why our defense is an all-time great defense. Like that wasn't it last year. Our leading pass rusher was Jadeveon Clowney, who had his
Yeah.
career year, and Kyle Van Noy, who had his career year, and Justin Madubuike, who had a career year last year. Instead, it was just like, dude, everyone out here is a dog, and they all fight for each other. I think Adisa Isaac is going to help that, and I'm just really excited to see what he's able to do. And I think he's another guy. He started playing football in high school. I think I saw. So
I believe so. Yeah, I think so.
like the
Uh,
Ravens know what they want with their projects. And he's not necessarily a project like Adafe was. He's someone that can play now, but he's going to be a backup to start. And, hopefully, I'm excited to see him in the preseason. I'll say that and get some snaps. He'll get snaps, right? Like TV and Robinson got snaps last year,
Oh yeah,
and he was good.
like, and the one thing, I don't watch a lot of Penn State football, but I know Penn State defensive coordinator was the former I think he was the former head coach for the U. And I forgot his. I know his first name is Maddie. Forgot his last name. Um, but Penn State runs a prowler package, McConnell. So same thing that um, uh, McDonald ran, at University of Michigan, and also what he brought into the NFL. And when I saw, Adisa Isaac's tape, I saw him almost being used like how we use Tyrus Bowser, in the three technique, sometimes standing up, and he got that sideline speed. Me personally, I was more sold on the Jeremiah Trotter Jr., but I mean, hey, it all worked out. And like you said, man, bringing some familiarity. The Ravens are known to do that. I don't know how many times we have drafted a guy that Lamar Jackson knew, whether it was from childhood or maybe even the college world. So it kind of seemed like we're kind of doing the same thing for that front seven. We're getting younger, we're getting stronger, and we're getting guys that have some familiarity with each other. And usually, sometimes when you have your friends or guys who you call your brothers, you sometimes kind of push each other to be better. So that's what I'm looking at. How's Adisa Isaac, a rookie, going to push a fifth year guy to be better? How's the fifth year guy going to push his little brothers in so many other words to become better or rise to the occasion in so many other aspects? And because I remember even when I played football, know, playing defensive end, you yell out to you yell out to your running mate, "Hey man, it's a party in the backfield. I meet you there. Let's get into the club." Things of that nature. So I'm looking forward to see how much fun this front seven is going to have, and also looking forward to how it's going to be plugged in. When it comes to the regular season, because like you said, we have used rookies in certain packages during the regular season, and they have um, taken the opportunity to let their time shine. So I definitely feel like when Mr. Isaac get that opportunity, he's not gonna let it go away, because there's gonna be many opportunities this year where he shows like, hey, you brought me in here for a reason. I can step up. I can be that next guy coming in this rotation in regards of pass rushers.
Yeah, I think one thing that I love about the Ravens in comparison to a lot of other teams is they are very good at understanding when to play their rookies. It's very rare that I feel like the Ravens put a rookie out there before they're ready. And I also feel like it's pretty rare when the Ravens don't put a rookie out there when they should be playing. Like they have a good balance of it, right? Like some teams are just like, yep, we're gonna draft Bryce Young and just throw him out there, even though we have no offensive line. He's gonna look terrible, give him no confidence going forward, like the Carolina Panthers. Like that's not when you play a rookie. Like
Yeah.
don't play a rookie quarterback when you have no receivers, no offensive line, no run game, and no offensive scheme. Like that makes no sense. But the Ravens drafted all of these guys, every single one of them, every position. There is a vet at that spot that can teach them how to be great, right? Nate Wiggins and TJ Tampa are looking at Marlon Humphrey and Brandon Stevens, who's also a great corner. You've got Roger Rosengard. Oh, you have Ronnie Stanley, a former all pro tackle. He can teach you how to be great, right? You can look at, don't want to forget anybody. You can look at Devontae Walker, who the Ravens receiving room isn't anything special, but you can look to Nelson Aguilar, Super Bowl champion wide receiver, NFL veteran, has been seen as like, hey, this is a good mentor wide receiver to have because he's been in the big moments, he's made the big plays, he's made the sacrifice plays, like just a solid veteran wide receiver. Rasheen Ali, oh, he's sitting behind Derrick Henry, the most dominant running back in the NFL probably since LaDainian Tomlinson. He might be more dominant than Adrian Peterson. Like that's how good he is. Like Devin Leary, he's looking at Lamar Jackson. Nick Samick, I mean, offensive line. He's looking at Ronnie Stanley. He's looking at Tyler Linderbaum, an All-Pro.
Yeah.
And Sanusi Kane is looking at Marcus Williams. He's looking at Kyle Hamilton. Like, that just shows the depth that the Baltimore Ravens have, that, hey, all of these guys get to learn under great players and develop under them, but also in a system that utilizes players when they're needed, right? Like, we'll take Marcus Williams off the field if Sanusi Kane has a package that makes more sense for him to be there. You know, we'll take off. I mean, we probably won't switch out offensive linemen. So we'll see if Roger's able to win that spot. But overall, like, I'm very excited to see what these players are able to do. I think the Ravens had a fantastic draft. I think the players that they got are very fitting to what the Ravens are trying to do as an organization, schematically and just like spiritually. Like they're just physical, tough football players, and battle tested, right? Like Devontae Walker, everything that the NCAA did to him, which if you guys don't know, let me know. I can make a video on it, but he got screwed out of half a season of college football. And who knows what North Carolina could have done last year if they had a number one wide receiver for the whole year. But very excited to see what happens.